Why do Filipinos sing so well? People all over the world have been asking that for decades, and it isn't just a polite compliment or a lazy stereotype. Talent show judges, music industry professionals, and complete strangers in countries that have never even had a Filipino community before have all noticed the exact same thing independently. A Filipino steps up to the mic at a karaoke bar in Tokyo, Dubai, Los Angeles, London, wherever, and the room just stops. Heads turn. Something happens that's genuinely hard to explain, and even harder to ignore. Think about your own family. For a second, every Filipino family has one. The singer. Maybe it's your mother, never had a lesson in her life, but hits notes trained vocalists struggle with. Maybe it's your Lola, who knows every word to every ballad from 3 different decades and sings them with enough feeling to stop a room mid-conversation. Maybe it's your cousin at the karaoke machine, the one everyone waits for. Or maybe it's you standing at the mic, surprised by what comes out of your own body. You've probably wondered where that comes from, whether there's an actual reason behind it or if it's just something Filipinos say about themselves. Science now has a fuller answer, and it goes back way further than karaoke machines, further than OPM radio, even further than colonial era church choirs. It goes back tens of thousands of years to a musical tradition built by your ancestors, one UNESCO has now formally recognized as among the greatest in human history. First, the basic question: is singing something you're born with or something you learn? For a long time, this was debated endlessly, with the popular assumption being that singing is purely a trained skill, and that, with enough practice, anyone can get good at it. Modern behavioral genetics has shown that's only half true. A landmark study published in the journal iScience looked at singing ability across thousands of participants and demonstrated for the first time at that scale that singing ability is genuinely heritable, passed down through genes the same way height or facial features are. The study found that genetics and family environment contribute really equally to pitch accuracy, vocal control, and natural feel for melody. In short, genes load it, environment fires it. Think about that in the context of your own family. Your mother could sing. Your Lola could sing. Somewhere further back, someone else in that line was singing too. You probably assumed it was just a family thing. Turns out, it's measurable, and it really does run in the blood. But genetics alone doesn't explain why Filipinos specifically sing the way they do, because this isn't only about what got passed down through DNA. It's about what an entire civilization built around the human voice over thousands of years, long before the rest of the world started paying attention. So let's go back, all the way back. Before karaoke, before OPM, before Spain ever reached these shores, in 1521, the islands were already full of music, not church hymns or colonial ballads, something older, more complex, and deeply woven into daily life, a musical tradition that had been developing for thousands of years before any European ship crossed the Pacific. The Ifugao people of the Cordillera Mountains, the same people behind the UNESCO-listed Banawe rice terraces, developed a vocal tradition called the Hudhud, an ancient chanting practice. Researchers believe predates the 7th century. It contains more than 200 individual chants across 40 distinct episodes performed over multiple days during rice harvests, funeral wakes, and sacred community rituals. Picture what that actually means. A community where the harvest itself comes with singing, where death is honored through days of chant, where the entire arc of life. Planting, growing, harvesting, mourning, celebrating, plays out through the human voice. That's not a culture treating singing as entertainment. That's a culture treating singing as the language of life itself. In 2001, UNESCO named the Hudhud chants of the Ifugao a masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. One of only 19 such designations given anywhere in the world in that first round. And that's not the only one. The Maranao people of Lake Lanao in Mindanao developed the Darangen, an epic sung tradition made up of 17 cycles and roughly 72,000 lines of chanted verse predating even the arrival of Islam in the southern Philippines in the 13th century. The Darangen carries the full story of the Maranao people, their customs, their laws, their love stories, their conflicts, and their spiritual beliefs, all through melodic chanting passed down by hereditary singers who trained their whole lives to carry it forward. 72,000 lines memorized, inherited from parents and grandparents before them. In 2005, UNESCO named the Darangen the second Philippine masterpiece of oral and intangible heritage. Two UNESCO-recognized singing traditions from the same archipelago, from a civilization that existed entirely before colonization, before anyone handed Filipinos a Spanish surname, a hymnal, or a karaoke machine. Think about your grandmother again, the one who knew every word without ever needing a songbook or a second ask. Where do you think that instinct came from? That sense, that music, isn't something you watch, but something you do and carry forward. It traces back to this, to 72,000 lines of chanted epic poetry carried by people who sang because singing was how they remembered who they were. Here's where the science and the history really connect. Researchers studying the link between culture and genetics describe something called gene-culture coevolution, the basic idea. When a culture consistently rewards a specific ability across many generations, the people naturally better at it tend to do better, socially and romantically, within their community. Over time, those traits spread through the population with culture and biology reinforcing each other until the group is both culturally trained in the behavior and biologically leaning toward it. An evolutionary psychologist at the London School of Economics has pointed to Filipinos as a striking case of exactly this. Singing in the Philippines was never just entertainment. It was woven into nearly every part of life. Ancient Filipinos sang during planting and harvest, during healing rituals led by the Babaylan, the sacred spiritual leaders of pre-colonial communities, during courtship, and as a way to pass down law, history, and belief systems. In the absence of any written record, music wasn't a hobby. It functioned as infrastructure, how a community remembered its laws, how a healer called someone's spirit back during illness, how a young man showed a family he was worthy of their daughter. When an ability matters that much for survival and social standing, the people who are better at it tend to thrive, and their children carry those traits forward. Consider the Babaylan for a moment. Healer, spiritual leader, and keeper of sacred knowledge, all in one, and she sang. The ritual and the voice were inseparable. Healing happened through chant. The most important figures in pre-colonial Filipino society were singers, not as a side skill, but as the core of what they did. Music and life weren't separate categories for your ancestors. They were the same thing. Now here's something hiding in plain sight, something training your voice every single day without you realizing it. Tagalog, Cebuano, Ilocano, Hiligaynon, Waray, and the more than 170 other indigenous languages of the Philippines share a trait linguists describe as unusually well-suited to vocal music. They're built around open vowel sounds, clean, full A, E, O, bo sounds, without the nasal closing or throat constriction. Found in many other languages across Asia, when Western vocal coaches train classical singers, one of the very first things that they work on is opening the vowels, keeping the throat relaxed, letting sound resonate fully through an open mouth position. Filipino children do this automatically from their very first words. Every time you speak Tagalog, sing along in Cebuano, or call out in Ilocano, you're producing exactly the kind of open vowel sounds trained singers spend years learning to control. Your first language has essentially been coaching your voice since before you could read. Then there's the moment. The voice moves from private to public, something every Filipino recognizes instantly. A birthday party, a fiesta, a Christmas gathering, a reunion. Someone picks up a microphone, and the whole room shifts. Side conversations stop. Everyone understands that once that mic comes out, something real is about to happen, not background noise. A performance, a small declaration of who someone is, delivered through voice. Filipino fiestas, family karaoke nights, birthday parties, where everyone eventually sings. These aren't just fun traditions. In developmental science terms, they function as ideal environments for building vocal confidence. Most Filipinos grow up inside that environment weekly. Think about how many times you performed as a kid. Not on a stage, not in a competition, just in front of family, with a mic in hand, and everyone watching. Think about how many times someone clapped, told you your voice was beautiful, asked for one more song. That kind of specific, repeated, genuinely warm encouragement from the people whose opinion matters most is one of the strongest known drivers of long-term vocal development in behavioral research, and Filipino kids get that encouragement constantly.